Hey, how's it going, everybody? Well, okay, let me be honest. I don't even know why I'm asking the question because it's not like you guys can give me a positive answer today. I'll be like, hey guys, actually, Dylan, it's going great. Probably the best it's ever been going, Dylan. Amazing, actually. In fact, um, I don't think that's gonna be happening today. Because between last stream and this stream, we have officially seen the start of the invasion of Russia. I mean, no. The invasion of Ukraine. Oh boy. Oh boy, I just gave a very pro Russia statement by accident. I'm on Hassan's grade copium. It's going great. How bad is it over there right now? Because he really fucked up. I mean, he like did one of those fuck ups that is oh my god. Like, my god, man. Oof. Putin has some serious small dick energy. Do you think there's more? This is more than just saber rattling? Oh, this is absolutely more than saber rattling. Because he's now putting his troops in the line of fire directly, officially, and deploying large-scale troops inside of Ukraine. This is officially, legally, undeniably, an invasion of Ukraine. He's just deploying these troops specifically to regions of Ukraine that are controlled by separatists, and then recognizing them as independent states that he is now going to protect. More officially, like dragging that line in the sand, trying to rip Donetsk and this general area away from the Ukrainian state, saying like, hey, now this is protected by Russian soldiers. Not to mention the evacuation. Let's get into the news. So let's get into the details, okay? Because we got a decent amount to go through, and it's not great. It's actually very bad. It's the opposite of a good time. Earlier today, under everyone's watchful eye, or at least the watchful eye of this person with a cameraman. Now, this is posted by Jake Hanrahan from a really good podcast called Popular Front. I highly recommend the podcast. Okay, can you guys stop spamming me questions? Because I haven't even started saying what happened. Okay, you're already spamming me questions. I can't even. Why am I gonna answer questions before I've even said what happened? Okay, but the answer is yes. These are Russian soldiers. These are Russian soldiers moving in officially into Ukraine. These are Russian soldiers. These are not separatists. These are Russian soldiers working on behalf of the Russian state, as in they are the arm of the military. Okay? Is that question answered correctly? Okay, wonderful. See if I can turn back on stream stuff. Jesus, I'm taking you all out to like foreign policy kindergarten right now. It's wonderful. Okay. So, this footage was posted by Jake Hanrahan from Popular Front of the Russian military, or what they're calling them. Now, we can just call them soldiers in an invading army, like everyone should, because that's what they are. But Jake Hanrahan posted this video of the Russian military. You guys are still posting me links. Okay, I'll post that there. Of the Russian military moving into the Donbass region, which is officially and internationally recognized as part of Ukraine. This is legally and essentially the start of an invasion of Ukrainian territory. Now, the thing is about this is timed specifically at the exact same time that Vladimir Putin, let's see if I can find this. Here is the order from the Russian president recognizing Donetsk and Luhansk, these two different people's republics. No, the Donetsk and Luhansk people's republics as independent states. As an independent state. Right? And so with him recognizing them as an independent state, he's recognizing them as a separate entity of Ukraine, and then using the violence that has occurred recently between the Ukrainian military and the rebels in the area. He's using that as a justification to invade that part of the country as a peacekeeping force, or as I like to call it, an invading army. Now, what's super interesting about this is exactly what I was bringing up on the video that was posted 2 hours before this invasion started. I posted a video 2 hours, made it live before the invasion started, that specifically said that this recent violence, and a lot of it looking a lot of fishy, and a lot of claims being made without evidence, and videos that were recorded days beforehand being posted like a week and 2 weeks later, and footage that doesn't really prove anything, and unconfirmed reports, and I'm showing, hey, look, here is the Ukrainian government asking for a full investigation into these events. And do we get a full independent investigation into these events? No. What we do get is the Russian government using these events, like I said in my last video about this, as a justification to move into the region. This is exactly what I warned about. That the reason why in the last video that we posted, I said that this right now is the moment I am the most concerned, is because I saw all the chess pieces lining up. We had the 150,000 troops on the border. We had 50% of them in a position to invade. But the things that were happening, that were the clearest signs to me, that is different than just posturing to try to get leverage in negotiations, was the evacuation of troops out of Donetsk. The evacuation out of troops, but of civilians out of Donetsk. And all these claims of the Ukrainians attacking them. Because, man, it was obvious. It was obvious to anyone paying attention that Ukraine and the government in Luhansk, the government in Donbass was making claims that Ukraine is about to invade. They're about to invade the separatist regions, and we're being attacked. Now, the second stuff has yet to been proven. There's been no independent investigations, just a bunch of claims being thrown around, and a lot of evidence that has big holes in it. That, like we talked about in the last video, and we didn't even get to go through all of it, right? But they claimed that Ukraine was going to invade, and that's crazy, because you want to know what? Out of all the times for Ukraine to choose to invade, they chose the time where there's 150,000 Russian troops on the border. They chose that specific time to invade this area. They chose the time when the entirety of the international community had their eyes on that border to invade. They chose the time where they know they don't have the same up-to-date equipment that the Russians do at their disposal to invade this area. They chose the time when they knew that if they were to do something like that, it would give Russia the justification to invade Ukraine, and that was the time they decided to invade. Everyone knew it was bullshit. And if you want to make any comparison between this and World War II, this is the most apt comparison. It feels like Poland and the Germans. Oh, really? Poland attacked you, Germany. A lot of people don't know this, but the German claim when they invaded Poland was that the Polish military attacked the Germans, therefore, in a way, this is self-defense. Now, everyone knew it was bullshit, but Germany had to claim it to keep up appearances. Same exact thing that's happening here. That's really probably, I'm hoping that's the only comparison I really am going to need to make to World War II today, okay? Oh, another one somebody bring up. The Japanese invasion of Manchuria. Another example. Another good example here. And so we all knew it was bullshit. And I called that out. I said, it's obvious nonsense. That's obviously not happening. The Ukrainians are not going to choose right now to invade. They're evacuating the area. This looks like what I would do if I was the Russian government and I was going to invade. And that's why I said in the video that dropped 3 hours or 2 hours, 3 hours max before this news came out, that right now is the most risky time, is the closest we've actually been to an invasion. And that's exactly what ended up playing out. And now we're seeing the Russian invasion of this area, as the civilians have already evacuated. Therefore, they're ready for anything that comes, and it gives them more maneuverability. Because now that the civilians are evacuated out of these regions, if they were to get into combat scenarios, their civilians are, at least the civilians under their protection, quote unquote, are safer. They're far away and safe. The Ukrainian civilians closer to the border regions, not so much. Not so much. Not really. So, yes, Putin has invaded, and let me get into some of the details of this again. But here is specifically the decree on recognizing the People's Republics, the rebels in the east of the country, as separate countries. Now, this would be step one of any plan Vladimir Putin has to annex the territory. But I don't even think he needs to necessarily do that. And I don't know if he would even necessarily do that in this scenario. Because one of the options that was offered in Crimea, even though I don't think it was really an option, if we're going to be honest, if we talk about the referendum in Crimea 2014-2015, right? Was the idea of an independent Crimean state, but under the protection and hardcore control, of course, of the Russian state. So I don't even think he needs to necessarily annex the territory. But the recognition of an independent state and the deployment of troops is most certainly an invasion, and is trying to permanently separate this territory from the Ukrainian state. And there's something here that actually is more concerning when we talk about this, is that there was a statement given, and I think somebody called it out, it was Christopher Miller, that the Russian Interior Minister told Putin that Moscow should recognize all of Donetsk and Luhansk regions as the DLNR, right? From Mariupol and ending with those historical borders. Now, Mariupol is down here. You see this thing right here? Down here in this thing. Let's get real close, okay? Down here. That's Mariupol. The current front line between the Ukrainian military and the rebels, and now I guess the Russian military as well, the invading force, is this red line. And this territory, this region, is outside of that. In fact, half of the Donetsk region and the Luhansk region, about half to I think 2/3, are controlled by the Ukrainian military. Mariupol? Okay, got it. And so, of course, this was a moment of concern, but as Christopher Miller goes on to say, or at least post, is that the Federation Council Deputy Chair said that Russia will recognize the de facto borders as they are today, aka the front line, meaning that we are not necessarily going to see the Russian military start pushing back Ukrainian troops until they control all of what is Donetsk, Luhansk. People are talking about them literally repeating the 2008 Georgia plan. Yeah, I don't know if I want to get into that complex of the history. Definitely, since I don't know enough about that conflict. But it's not surprising. Okay, so we're going to see Russian troops in this area behind the red line. This is what we should expect at the moment. Now, oof, man. This is just depressing, man. Now, I am not one to make guesses on these types of things, or even predictions. Now, I gave you guys what I thought could happen last video, and I would say the vast majority of that did end up happening, as we're seeing right now. But I do want to say that this is my concern moving forward. Now, it is completely possible that the Russian invasion stops with separatist-controlled territory. That is possible. Now, there have been other things presented to the public about three-phase invasion plans. There have been other information posted about other plans they have and on the border with Belarus and other regions of the country. But I could see it stopping here, right? I could see that. And then what they have achieved there is the physical separation of the rebel regions and basically making these lines in the sand permanent due to the fact that the Ukrainian military can't really fight the Russian military head to head on it in like an offensive capacity, at least not at this point. This also, of course, gets rid of the kind of, I would say, under the table nature that Russia has dealt with this region, because this isn't like the first time Russian troops were in here. What has been referred to as the Little Green Men have been in these regions before, just like they were in Crimea unofficially, and the Russian state denied it then. Until then, they surrounded all the major military bases, and then they announced it officially that they were in the country and were asking for everyone to surrender. That's basically what they were doing in this region up until now. Is now they're in an official capacity, and now they're just sending full forced army. They're not just sending people to go train the rebels. They're not sending people to make up rebel battalions. It is now the Russian military as an entity is now officially there. It's now above table.
Morally corrupt, bankrupt man.
Found you a little over 2 months ago through YouTube and dusted off my Twitch account. Keep up the great work, man. Looking forward to Friday. Hey, Celestial Dawn, thank you so much for the Prime Gaming, and I'm excited for Friday too. Not as excited for this news. So, the thing that concerns me is the idea that you see all these like reports coming out of Russia of like, oh, the Ukrainians attacked Russian territory. Let's actually pull up some of it right now. Russia's army claims it destroyed 2 Ukrainian APCs. It says crossed the Russian border, evacuating saboteurs from the battlefield, killing 5. What's significant aren't the claims, but that it's the Russian military, not separatists, making them. There's also other claims that have been made about chemical weapons being used, which, I mean, the irony is self-evident. There's been claims about terror attacks and all this. And it's not that these claims are literally impossible. They're highly unlikely given the circumstances and motivations involved. But also there's just a complete lack of evidence, right? And it just doesn't make sense for Ukraine to be doing this right now, because something like this could be the result. Russia using that as justification to move in its military, not only into separatist-controlled territory, but into Ukraine proper. And so, going back to this map, I wouldn't find it particularly surprising if if you see these yellow dots, they're like ceasefire violations, right? The darker the dot, if it's like orange or like that, it's like more violations.
Bankrupt man.
Anonymous Gifter, thank you for giving a tier 1 sub to Colingrad. Thank you. I could see Russia continuing these claims to pump them out, whether they're substantiated with evidence or not. And a lot of these claims just have massive holes in them. We can go through them at a different time. There's just like a lot to get through right now. What if they continue to pump out these claims and then say, look, it's the Ukrainian military. Now that we got our troops involved, and now that we represent, these are separate countries that we're protecting, and these are our peacekeepers. Now the Ukrainian military isn't just moving its troops into Russian territory. It didn't just have an artillery shell hit Russian territory, baby. It's not just attacking separatists or this waterline or this or this that. Now you're attacking our troops, because it's our troops in the separatist regions, which you call separatist regions, but we now recognize as a sovereign state. And therefore, you just attacked the Russian military. We need to protect ourselves, expand the invasion. And if they are going to expand the invasion, which we don't necessarily know if they're going to expand the invasion from what we're seeing right now, that 90%, if they do it, 90% of the chance that's going to be it. 90%. If it happens, that's the way it's going to happen. That's how a lot of invading armies do it. That's how the Germans did it. That's how the Japanese did it. Hell, that's even historically how the Russians have done it. That's not even a new thing for the Russians. So it's a good historical precedent when you're convincing your own people. Because let's say your own people are on the line, like they're like, I don't know if I really want to go to war. I don't know. But then you look them in the eye and you say, they attacked us. We didn't attack them. And that's from your own government. And then it just depends on how much you trust your government or not, right? If you trust your government enough, then maybe you buy it. And if you buy it, like, buy some time to launch the invasion, do the invasion. Apparently, the document stating the independence of the region also has deals on approved military bases that they can build in the region. Yeah, they're going to, at this point, the Russian military is going to cement a permanent presence in this region. They're going to do that. Like, as far as Russia is concerned, these regions really are no longer part of Ukraine. And so they have expanded the Crimea invasion officially. Not even like behind closed doors with the operation of military troops. It's now an official invasion. I mean, I don't know what you would call these troops moving across the Ukrainian border. I mean, or here's a better angle. Oh. Like it's just straight up an invasion. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Hey, thanks for the hype train. Now, before we move on, what more do we have here that we want? We were possibly gonna go through all of this. Yeah, even here it talks about it's Georgia 2008 all over again. It really is. My God. Hey, thanks for the 100 bits for my favorite streamer, Hype Train. I appreciate it. Now, the Ukrainian foreign minister, of course, and like, I mean, I don't know how much dignity I even want to give a lot of these claims, but let's go through them. This is the Ukrainian foreign minister responding to the claims being made that to Russia has justified their invasion is number one, that Ukraine has attacked Donetsk and Luhansk. Number one, they didn't have an independent investigation. Number two, they haven't provided what I would consider, I think most people would consider, enough evidence to really prove this, that they attacked them in some significant manner than outside of what is like regular border skirmishes for like the conflict, right? There was no escalation done, right? No evidence provided. And it also doesn't make sense strategically for Ukraine to do this right now unless it literally just wanted to give Russia a reason to invade Ukraine. It doesn't make any sense. Number two, send saboteurs or APCs over the Russian border. So this was a direct claim made by Russia that Crimea, Ukraine, decided to send Russian troops into Russian territory, which again, strategically makes no sense. Just coolant TBH. Thank you so much for the tier 1. Thanks for the information. No problem. So this doesn't really make sense, again, strategically for the Ukrainians to do this. And like, I don't know how much evidence has been provided, but the Ukrainians are denying it. They did not shell Russian territory, shell the border crossing, conduct acts of sabotage. Ukraine also does not plan any such action. Russia, stop your fake producing factory now. So, of course, the Ukrainians are denying all of it. I haven't seen enough evidence provided, and I mean, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, the things that are the most believable to me is, like, if you wanted to use the attack Donetsk in a very broad sense to say any border skirmish is an attack, like, then I can believe that. I could see, like, an artillery unit going off here or there, but nothing more than, like, was received back by the rebels and or what is to be expected. Nothing that was like an escalation. Like, I find the idea of attacks and crossings in the Russian territory, that's the stuff that I want to see more clearly, like, examined and those claims examined. It's semantics. Yeah, it's 100% semantics. Laura B, thank you for the Prime Gaming. Because the Russians are making it sound like Russia was almost like invaded by the Ukrainians, which, I mean, no. Or that the Ukrainians, and this is the framing that is just complete horseshit, that the Ukrainians were going to invade Donetsk, that they were going to do a massive campaign against the rebels. this is just like complete nonsense. I'm not even going to entertain the idea because it's such fucking bullshit. Because for me to entertain the idea is to legitimize the idea. There's a better chance of Kim Jong-un himself getting elected governor of California than the Ukrainian government actually planning to invade Donetsk right now. It just makes zero strategic sense. It makes no sense from like any viewpoint you could look at the situation. Keva Tanker 615, thanks for the Prime Gaming. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. So some of you guys want me to go over this go over the Hassan stuff. I guess I should. There's a lot of stuff he said, I'm gonna be honest. And like a lot of people linking it, a lot of people looking at it. If there's anything that I'm missing, you can send it my way if I'm missing some like vital information or some clip. But we are mostly gonna concentrate on the conflict, so I just kind of want to get this out of the way as soon as possible, okay? So the first thing is a clip that Bastiat and Destiny and like, you know, the usual Twitch politics people posted. It's a 48-second clip. We're gonna watch it quick.
But like, you feeling bad about the Crimean annexation does not change the reality of the Crimean annexation being a completely justifiable fucking act by the Russian government, okay? So that's it. That's fine. And Hitler invaded countries based on Germanic ties at first? Yeah, dude. Talk to me when he's fucking throwing Ukrainians in a fucking... What are you talking about? Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians at a concentration camp, okay? Hitler wasn't fucking bad because he decided to invade Austria. He was bad because he was fucking killing Jews, okay? That was the problem. He wasn't like, oh yeah, we're gonna fucking annex territory with like Germanic people in it. That wasn't the main problem with Hitler, I think.
I think. I gotta say, that I think is doing the most heavy lifting of any I think I've ever seen in the history of my life. Like just like a very bold, yelly claim, right? And then at the end of it, just like an I think statement. Like just boom, just dropping it right there. That
was like maybe 8th down the line.
So the thing is here, what's interesting about this interaction, and if there's any context I'm missing here, please somebody tell me, okay? But what's interesting about this line is he still acknowledges that it was bad. It was like 8th down the line on Hitler, right? But the thing is, like, Hitler was like a really bad guy, okay? I'm gonna take that brave stance today. And so normal, or like the most horrible things in the world, or like 7th, 8th, 9th place on, I guess, the worst things Hitler ever done scale, right? For example, the Holocaust, right? Just fucking certain Nazi divisions and what they did in Russia and in Ukraine and Poland, like Nazi experimentation. Like there's so much evil shit that happened that like when you get this things like censorship of speech and like assassinations and like stuff like that, like yeah, it's gonna get to 7th or 8th place, but that's because Hitler is so terribly bad. Deciding to solve conflicts when there's other avenues available of like, hey, this region disagrees. This region actually has a high number of Russian-speaking people with an invasion. Is pretty high up there on the bad scale. Just like Adolf Hitler saying, instead of reaching like a normal diplomatic solution to this, I'm basically just, you know, I'm going to use my military might to take what I want because there's Russian...
Point, the most charitable I can be for Hassan is that his foreign policy is just, I hate America.
Maybe. But if you look from like Hitler's perspective, right? Hitler looking at Sudetenland saying, hey, there's Germans here. There's nothing wrong if Hitler was just to be like, I guess like, hey, let's have a conversation about all these Germans in the Sudetenland. The problem was, hey, here's our military, that's ours, fuck you. You want to negotiate peace here? Okay. Then he took all of Czechoslovakia anyway. It didn't even fucking matter, right? And so what we're looking at right now is Vladimir Putin saying, hey, there's people who speak Russian here and are sympathetic more to our side of politics and to the Russian nation. It's ours now. Why? Because we have military. And you know what? We're going to lie about our troops moving into Crimea. We're going to lie about this referendum, and we're going to say it's completely legitimate when it's obviously fraudulent. We're going to lie about the numbers when it comes to the referendum. We're going to lie about this, and that. We're going to lie about everything. And we're going to take it by force. And the only two options we're going to leave you, neither of them actually allows Crimea to move back into Ukraine. This is now permanently within our control. It is outside of Ukraine under every single circumstance now. Right? That's the problem. Is that, yeah, it's 8th on the Hitler scale, but you're literally dealing with the worst, like, person alive. If a United States president did this, right, it would rank on one of the worst things that United States president ever did. Because it's a terrible thing for the average world leader to do. For example, one of the worst things I think Saddam Hussein ever did, Saddam Hussein ever did was invade Kuwait. One of the worst things an American president ever did was invade Iraq, right? In 2003. And so, like, using the Hitler scale, like, yeah, it's not the worst thing Hitler did, but it's still a terrible, terrible thing that Hitler did.
But like,
fuck, such a weird clip. He also, like, released a video. And so, can I tell you the history of this video? Because this video has, like, an interesting history. And we might actually watch it in full. Because today might just be the day we're just foreign policy day today, okay? So the original title of this video was actually, I was right about Ukraine. Then he changed it to, Russia has still yet to invade Ukraine, after his statements about, like, Russia pulling its troops back and they're de-escalating, all ended up to be horse shit. And he literally just bought Vladimir Putin's lies, just frontal. He just accepted it, consumed it, and accepted it. That's just boom. I agree with that now, right? And I assume he's now gonna maybe change it from this to Russia has invaded Ukraine. Like, I have no clue, right? But you can see a lot of the sentiment by just reading the description of the video. Are we going to war? No. Russia has started pulling back troops after the military exercises. They were never going to invade Ukraine. And the West, it's kind of hard to see here, but it says, and the Western media has been fear-mongering, and he goes on. And he doubled down on Twitter, too. He doubled down on Twitter. Today, even. Look at this. It's Monday, and it seems like Russia still hasn't invaded Ukraine, as all the high-level intelligence suggested. Maybe this week. Hope not. Anyway, lots to talk about today. A lot of people, like, had some things to say, you know, like, hey, Hassan, I don't know. Like, I was liking the Vosh tweets, like, a few hours before it happened, and then the invasion happened. And the thing is, as terribly, weirdly terrible Hassan has been on this issue, whether it be him talking about Crimea, whether it be him just, like, accepting anything Putin says at basically face value when it comes to what he's gonna do, and not thinking he can lie, even though he lied about Crimea, even though he lied about Donetsk and Donbass, even though he lied about the recent developments, and now he lied about that. He just bought it all. Just bought it all. He did do something admirable, and that was admit he was wrong, which I gotta say, a lot of people don't do. You know, Hassan Abi could have pivoted here and said, you know what? Actually, you know, I think Putin's speech on this whole thing was pretty reasonable. I think he made some good points. Maybe Donetsk actually belonged, and he could have done that, but instead, he admitted he was wrong. I was wrong. The Russian recognition of eastern Ukrainian territories as independent and subsequent Russian troop activity in said regions for peacekeeping. By the way, let me read that again. Listen to this very carefully. Ukrainian territories as Russian recognition of Eastern Ukrainian territories as independent and the subsequent Russian troop activity into said regions for peacekeeping is 100% an aggressive escalation. He's using every word in the book to just not say invasion. He was like doing backflips over like a thesaurus while making the sentence. He used every word in the book except invasion. But he still admitted he was wrong. That absolutely moves away from diplomatic talks. A horrible move, to say the least, of course. It's good that he changed his mind. UN Security Council convening nowish. Let's go check. Let's go check, boys. UN. The Security Council president is Russia. I know, I saw that. I looked it up. That's crazy. That they're the Security Council president. That's fucking wild, man. Oh, here we go. I feel like IRI right now.
In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite... I thank Ms. DiCarlo for her briefing. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements.
It's made so much worse by the Russian Federation being the president.
The permanent representative of the United States.
It's so bad.
I thank the representative of the United States for their statement. I give the floor to the permanent representative of Albania.
Thank you, Mr. President.
By the way,
Let me thank
can I quickly just say that the vibe of Russia calling them peacekeepers reminds me of the Turkish invasion of northeastern Syria being called Operation Peace Spring. It reminds me just like it's almost a joke in nature, you know? It's almost like they're mocking us.
I thank the representative of France. I now give the floor to the representative of India. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of the United Kingdom.
Mr. President, we meet this evening because earlier today, President Putin announced the Russian Federation's recognition of the independence of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic, and issued a decree to send Russian military forces into Ukraine as so-called peacekeepers. The actions taken today make mockery of the commitments Russia has made through the Budapest Memorandum and the Minsk Agreement,
Fuck yeah!
endorsed by Security Council
Fuck
Resolution
yeah!
2202.
With the layup!
In seeking to redraw borders by force, Russia's actions show blatant contempt for international law. The United Kingdom
This is
will
the
be
first ever
announcing
British
new
W on this
sanctions
channel.
Russia in response to its breach of international law and attack on Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. There will be severe economic consequences to its actions. Colleagues, now, more than ever, the Council must shoulder its responsibilities for peace and security and defend the principles of the UN Charter. In calling on Russia to respect its obligations under the Charter to the peaceful resolution
She should throw a
of
pen at the
disputes.
Russian guy. Pick up your pen, just throw it.
Russia has brought us to the brink.
Dink right off his
We
head.
urge Russia to step back. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for her statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Mexico.
Señor Presidente.
President, we're grateful.
The only W you Brits in my chat will ever get. Ever. You're one W. No more W's for any of you. The only W you are ever allowed. Okay, back to Mexico.
Cease.
To the permanent representative of Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Undersecretary General Rosemary
Kenya!
DiCarlo for her
Whoa.
briefing. Mr. President, this situation echoes our history. Kenya and almost every African country was birthed by the ending of empire.
Oh shit!
Our borders were not of our own drawing.
Oh
They were
shit!
drawn in the distant colonial metropoles of London, Paris,
Oh
and
my
Lisbon,
god, this is a
with
great
no
argument.
regard for the ancient nations that they cleaved apart. Today, across the border of every single African country live our countrymen with whom we share deep historical, cultural, and linguistic bonds. At independence, had we chosen to pursue states on the basis of ethnic, racial, or religious homogeneity, we would still be waging bloody wars these many decades later. Instead, we agreed that we would settle for the borders that we inherited, but we would still pursue continental political, economic, and legal integration. Rather than form nations that looked ever backwards into history
A really good
with
statement.
a dangerous nostalgia, we chose to look forward to a greatness none of our many nations and peoples had ever known. We chose to follow the rules of the Organization of African Unity and the United Nations Charter, not because our borders satisfied us, but because we wanted something greater, forged in peace. We believe that all states formed from empires that have collapsed or retreated have many peoples in them yearning for integration with peoples in neighboring states. This is normal and understandable. After all, who does not want to be joined to their brethren and to make common purpose with them? However, Kenya rejects such a yearning from being pursued by force. We must complete our recovery from the embers of dead empires in a way that does not plunge us back into new forms of domination and oppression. We rejected irredentism and expansionism
God.
on any basis, including racial,
He's
ethnic,
juking
religious,
everyone
or
out.
cultural factors. We reject it again today. Kenya registers its strong concern and opposition to the recognition of Donetsk and Luhansk as independent
Burns is an
states.
immoral, morally
We further
corrupt,
strongly
bankrupt
condemn the trend in the last few decades of powerful states, including members of this Security Council, breaching international law with little regard. Multilateralism lies on its deathbed tonight.
Oof.
It has been assaulted today
Oh my
as
god.
it has been by other powerful states in the recent past.
They're already
We
dead,
call on
Kenya.
all members to rally behind the Secretary General in asking him to rally us all to the standard that defends multilateralism. We also call on him to bring his good offices to bear to help the concerned parties resolve this situation by peaceful means.
UK and
Let
Kenya.
me conclude, Mr.
Great
President,
statement so
by
far.
reaffirming Kenya's respect for the territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally
Just sprinkling more at
recognized
the end.
borders.
Oh,
Thank you.
beautiful.
Я благодарю.
Beautiful
I
statement.
thank the representative of Kenya for his statement.
No, you
I
don't.
give the floor
I know
to
you don't.
the permanent representative of Ghana.
Okay, Ghana's next.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I would also begin by, first of all, thanking USG Rosemary DiCarlo for her briefing to the Council. Mr. President, the decision by the Russian Federation to recognize the non-government-controlled regions of eastern Ukraine and to send in troops have stunned the world. Ghana deeply regrets the decision of the
Oh,
Russian
boy,
Federation
back to back.
to turn its back on
Back
the Minsk
to
agreements
back. Back
and
to
the dialogue
back.
required to address concerns over the
Oh.
implementation of the agreements. When Ghana joined this organization in 1957, we were under no illusions that the international order was perfect. However, we were convinced, and still are, that the principles of sovereign equality of states, which constitute the basis of this organization and our multilateral order,
Dude, this just shows that, like, the tanky position on this shit, these online weirdos, man, Like, they're irrelevant IRL. Like, to the vast majority of people in nation states, they see this for what it is. You're just a psycho on the internet. That's it. You're just a psycho on the internet, just simping for another nation's interest for no reason, even if it drags you into war.
While Ghana and other African member states have always held that the use of the veto power is anachronistic and counterproductive to the effective workings of our modern arrangements for maintaining global peace and security.
This is completely
That
kind of
concern
separate,
has
but
never
also
been rendered
true.
more acute than in situations such as the one
True. What he's basically saying is, yo, it's kind of bullshit that the whole world thinks this is bullshit, but all Russia has to do is veto it, and we can't really do shit about it. That's bullshit. And this is a great example of how that's bullshit, and this council shouldn't have that veto power. He's bringing out a great argument. This is a huge issue within the UN.
A common commitment to the purposes and principles of the Charter. Besides the immediate cost of instability, all countries, including the most vulnerable in the developing world, may pay a steep price for the actions that destabilize the part of Europe.
You know how funny it would be if China came out with, like, we're against what Putin is doing. How funny it would be? That would be hilarious. It's not going to happen, but that'd be absolutely hilarious.
I give the floor to the permanent representative of China.
Oh, here comes China.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, China has been paying close attention to the latest developments of the situation in Ukraine. We fully elaborated on our position at the previous two meetings of the Council on this topic. At present, all parties concerned must exercise restraint and avoid any action that may fuel tensions. We welcome and encourage every effort for a diplomatic solution and call on all parties concerned to continue dialogue and consultation and seek reasonable solutions to address each other's concerns on the basis of equality and mutual respect. The current situation in Ukraine is a result of many complex factors. China always makes its own position according to the merits of the matter itself. We believe that all countries should solve international disputes.
How is he going to say, like, our country makes our decisions based on the merit of the issue and then just gives the most milquetoast neutral position possible? Like, not even talking about what happened. Like, basically just, hey, everybody should talk. All parties should, talk or whatever. Like, okay, but then you're not judging on the merits then. Sounds like you're being neutral on the situation because you just don't care.
Categorical assessments and far-reaching conclusions related to the signing today by Russia's president of decrees recognizing the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics. I'll leave the direct verbal assaults against us unanswered. Now it's important to focus on how to avoid war and how to
okay,
force
so he's not
Ukraine
responding
to stop the shelling
to any other
and
criticisms.
provocations against Donetsk and Lugansk.
Dodge!
From the statements of a number of our colleagues, one may get the impression that Russia's recognition of the LPR and the DPR took place suddenly, for no reason at all. Of course, that's not the case. It should be remembered that the DPR and the LPR declared their independence from Ukraine back in 2014.
With Russian military
we only
support.
recognize them now, despite the higher level of support for doing so, both in the republics themselves and in Russian society from the very beginning. At the time, the hope won out that the Ukrainian Maidan regime would think again and would stop talking to their own citizens in the east in the language of cannons and shooting and threats and shelling. Time and again, we firmly asked Kiev to listen to the aspirations of the people living in Donbass and the Russian-speaking residents of the country, to respect their entirely legitimate desire to use their mother tongue and to teach their children in that language, and also to honor the memories of those who liberated the land from fascists rather than those who fought on the side of fascists and had a hand in the killing of hundreds of thousands of people
That's
during
gonna make
the Second
a lot of
World
people
War.
soy out. Yeah.
After Ukrainian military adventures butted up against the determination of the people of Donetsk and Lugansk to defend their lands, the Minsk agreements were signed and the package of measures was adopted. with the aim of implementing it. There was once again hope for peace and that the Maidan authorities would be sensible, having exhausted the desire to submerge Donetsk and Lugansk in blood. There was a particularly great amount of hope invested in the election in 2019 of a new president of Ukraine, who promised at long last to establish peace in Donbass. However, those who hoped that the Ukrainian authorities would take a peaceful stance were unfortunately mistaken. Kiev not only very quickly returned to its bellicose rhetoric and continued the shelling of civilians, but also did everything it could to sabotage and ultimately destroy the Minsk agreements.
Invading, destroys the Minsk agreements. The Donetsk People's Republics have been shelling a ton. It's been like mutual scuffles on the border. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I want to pause and talk, but I can't pause it because it's a live stream.
An unambiguous confirmation of an unwillingness to engage in that dialogue is something we've heard repeatedly from Ukrainian leaders in the last few days, including from the permanent representative of Ukraine during the Security Council meeting that we convened on the 17th of February to discuss the implementation of the Minsk agreements. After that, it became clear once and for all that Ukraine did not intend to implement the Minsk agreements. And I would like to recall and remind my colleagues on the Security Council that in all other conflicts, be it Libya, Syria or Yemen, we all demand and call for direct dialogue between the parties to the conflict. And it's only in Ukraine, for example, the Ukraine that is for some reason an exception to this rule. From some statements today, one may understand that a number of our colleagues are ready to bury the Minsk agreements. However, I would like to remind you that when the Minsk agreements were concluded, the LPR and the DPR had already declared their independence. The fact that Russia today recognized that in no way changes the makeup of the parties to the Minsk agreements, because Russia is not a party to the Minsk agreements.
What?
We have repeatedly declared this, and in so doing, in this regard, nothing has changed.
Weasley.
It's another matter that the Minsk agreements, part of the provisions of which were supposed to be implemented way back in 2015, have long been openly sabotaged by Ukraine with the backing of our Western colleagues. And today we can see that many colleagues want to sign up to the idea that the Minsk agreements are dead, but that's not the case. And Kiev is still bound to implement them. We remain open to diplomacy for a diplomatic solution. However, allowing a new bloodbath in the Donbass is something we do not intend to do. Unfortunately, we are forced to note the extremely negative role played in all of this by our Western colleagues, led by the USA. Instead of forcing Kiev to implement its obligations, they have merely been openly egging Ukraine on, repeating the meaningless mantra that the obligations under the Minsk agreement are not being implemented by Russia, which, as we've repeatedly underscored, is not even a party to the Minsk agreements. Moreover, while for the last few weeks already whipping up unfounded panic around the allegedly impending Russian invasion of Ukraine, our Western colleagues have been unashamedly cramming weapons into the country, sending instructors there, essentially nudging the Ukrainians.
How can you say that?
Have
wow, they've been sending them weapons while they gather 150,000 troops on the border. Maybe they wouldn't be sending them so many weapons if you didn't invade Crimea or now invade that region or have troops on the border. What do you mean?
They had to burst. In the past weekend, there's been a sharp increase in the intensity of Ukrainian shelling of residential areas of LPR and DPR, and the 1,600 shells have been shot. Civilians have been killed. The territory of the republics has been penetrated by subversive groups who have carried out or tried to carry out sabotage of critical infrastructure. As I already said, there are casualties from among the civilian population. The LPR and DPR have declared general mobilization. It's in Russia and not Ukraine that refugees have flooded to. Over the last few days, the number of evacuated women, old people and children has reached around 60,000 people, and Russia is hosting them and providing them with conditions for them to be housed and supported. There has also been shelling of some towns and villages on Russian territory near the border zone. And so it has become clear that Donbass is on the brink of a new Ukrainian military adventure, as was already the case in 2014 and 2015. We cannot allow that. That is why the Russian president heeded the opinion of parliamentarians and members of the Russian Security Council, and you know the rest. A detailed statement from our head of state about the reasons of this decision that has been taken was broadcast in detail by all the world's leading media. Today, it's true, we have heard an open distortion of what the president was talking about in his statement about history and the genesis of this situation, and about the fact that he allegedly said that he wants to reconstruct the Russian Empire. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to call upon our Western colleagues to think twice, to set emotions to one side, and not to make the situation worse. No one other than you can hold back the militaristic plans of Kiev and force it to stop the shelling and provocations against the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics, who in these new conditions
the thing is,
could have experienced.
So much of the allegations being made are just blatantly false. Like, Russia claimed that Ukraine was preparing to invade, and they just so happened to be preparing to invade when Russia gathered all their troops on the border and was ready to send them into the region. It's complete bullshit. Not to mention the videos announcing the evacuation were recorded days in advance. People have looked at the metadata of a lot of the footage presented as evidence that's been completely fucky. Fuck, man. And not to mention they haven't accepted Ukraine's request for an independent investigation.
Fates from your statements from 2014, generally calling them pro-Russian separatists. At the same time, you decided that the illegal coup in 2014 only wanted to discuss with the new authorities how their rights would be upheld. That was all they wanted to do. In the last few days, with the sharp intensification in military activity from the Ukrainian army along the contact line, the lives of hundreds of thousands of women, children, and elderly persons have once again, as in 2014 and 2015, ended up under real threat. And the main aim of our decision was to protect and preserve those people. And that is more important than all of your threats. Thank you. I resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Ukraine.
Ukraine!
Distinguished members
oh, shit.
of the Security Council.
You don't need a translator.
Undersecretary.
Power move.
It is with unease that I will now remove my mask. And it is not because of the COVID virus. We are all vaccinated. There are vaccines for COVID. It is because of the virus that has so far no vaccine. The virus that hit
the drama,
the United Nations.
My God.
And the virus that is spread by the Kremlin. The delegation of Ukraine has requested this urgent meeting to draw the attention of the Security Council to the illegal and illegitimate decision by the President of the Russian Federation to recognize the occupied parts of Donetsk and Lugansk regions of Ukraine as so-called Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics.
Occupied by Russian soldiers. Good language.
Today, the entire membership of the United Nations is under attack. Under attack by the country that occupied the membership of the Security Council in 1991, bypassing the UN Charter. The country that occupied parts of the territory of Georgia in 2008.
2008 callback.
The country that occupied parts of Ukraine in 2014. As stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, following the urgent meeting of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, The internationally recognized borders of Ukraine have been and will remain unchangeable, regardless of any statements and actions by the Russian Federation. Ukraine unequivocally qualifies the recent actions by the Russian Federation as violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. The political leadership of the Russian Federation shall bear full responsibility for the outcomes of the decision taken. Recognition of the occupied parts of the Donetsk and Lugansk regions of Ukraine may be considered as unilateral withdrawal by Russia from the Minsk agreements, and well as its disregard of the decisions taken in the framework of the Normandy Fall. This step undermines peaceful efforts and ruins the existing negotiating frameworks. By the decisions adopted today and those that may be adopted tomorrow, Russia legalizes the presence of its troops, which have actually been in the occupied areas of Donbass since 2014. A country that has fueled the war for 8 years is not able to maintain peace as it claims. What will happen next? We want peace, and we are consistent in our actions. Today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine has sent a request on the basis of the Budapest Memorandum to the guarantors of security of Ukraine, demanding immediate consultations. The meeting of the UN Security Council and the special meeting of the OEC have been initiated. We insist on the full-fledged operations of the OEC SMM to prevent provocations and further escalation. An emergency summit of Normandy 4 has been requested. We expect from our partners clear and efficient steps of support. It is critical to see now who is our true friend and partner, who is on the side of the UN Charter, and who will continue to deter Russia by words only.
Words only.
We are committed to a political diplomatic settlement and do not succumb to provocations. In accordance with Article 51 of the Charter, Ukraine has the inherent right to individual and collective self-defense. We are committed to a peaceful and diplomatic path, and we will stay firmly on it. We are on our land. We are not afraid of anything or anyone. We owe nothing to anyone, and we will not give away anything to anyone. There should be no doubts whatsoever, because it is not February 2014. It is February 2022. Another country, another army. One goal is peace. Peace in Ukraine, peace in Europe, global peace. Excellencies, we must do all we can to make sure that the problem of Donbass is resolved through implementation of the Minsk agreements. That was said here in the Security Council chamber just 4 days ago.
4 days.
By the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister,
Vasily.
in the chair
Vasily
of the
said
President
that.
of the Council, with a reference to President Putin. President Putin, who has taken a decision that we discussed today as a threat to the rules-based order, to the UN Charter, in particular Article 2 of the Charter, as well as to international peace and security. Peace and security that the Council has been conferred a primary responsibility to maintain under the Article 24 of the UN Charter. And in accordance with the Article 39, the Security Council shall make recommendations or decide what measures shall be taken to maintain or restore international peace and security. The delegation of Ukraine requests the Security Council members to exercise the above duties. We invite the Russian Federation to reread again and again, carefully, today's statement, where the Secretary General considered the decision of the Russian Federation to be a violation of territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine and inconsistent with the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, and I thank the Secretary General for this powerful statement. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that it remains up to Russia to abandon its long-lasting strategy on Ukraine based on threat and use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of my country, and re-engage in what we all have committed to, fundamental principles of peaceful relations enshrined in the UN Charter. We demand from Russia to cancel the decision on recognition and return to the table of negotiations. We condemn the order to deploy additional Russian occupation troops in the territories of Ukraine. We demand immediate and complete verifiable withdrawal of the occupation troops. Dear members of the Security Council, the United Nations is sick. That's a matter of fact. It's been hit by the virus spread by the Kremlin. Will it succumb to this virus? It is in the hands of the membership. Today, the Kremlin copy-pasted word by word the decree on Georgia of 2008.
Holy shit!
Copy-pasted.
Oh my God!
Copy-pasted. No creativity whatsoever. The copying machine in Kremlin works very well. Who is the next among the members of the United Nations?
Literal copy pasta. Holy moly. That last paragraph was literally just the same.
I thank you.
I, as President of the Security Council, am obliged to say this. I thank the representative of Ukraine for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Germany.
He just said, I'm obliged to say thank you. He doesn't want to.